Chosen one, everything around you slows to silence, as if heaven itself has taken a breath. This moment is not random. It is written into the fabric of divine timing. You are standing at the turning point of your story, the intersection between what was and what will now be revealed. The weight you feel right now is not pressure, it is presence. The Spirit of God is near, ushering you into the season you were always meant to step into. You have sensed it for some time now, haven't you, that pull inside your chest? The awareness that something sacred is unfolding beyond your understanding. You have watched doors close, relationships shift, and familiar patterns fall apart. Yet, in the middle of the chaos, there is a whisper rising. This is not the end, it's the unveiling. The time has come for what was hidden to emerge. The time has come for heaven's gift to be placed into your hands. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, on verse 19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? This is your word for this hour. God is doing something new, not just around you, but within you. The familiar has been dismantled to make room for divine design. What once felt like loss was actually a clearing. Every delay, every rejection, every unanswered prayer was heaven's way of preparing the ground for this very moment. The gift is not late, it is right on schedule. You have walked through long seasons where silence felt unbearable, where you wondered if heaven had gone quiet. But the truth is, heaven was not silent, it was strategizing. God was aligning details you couldn't see. You thought you were waiting on Him, but in reality, He was waiting on you to mature, to strengthen, to finally recognize your worth and walk in your authority. There are no coincidences here. Every tear watered the soil of your calling. Every night of exhaustion refined your endurance. You were not buried, you were planted. And now, the seed of purpose is breaking through the soil of your past. What is sprouting cannot be stopped. The same Spirit that hovered over the waters at creation now hovers over your destiny, commanding light to appear where there was once confusion. Chosen one, heaven has watched you endure storms meant to destroy others. You carried pain quietly, still showing compassion when your heart was bleeding. You chose love when bitterness would have been easier. That is why God calls you chosen, not because you were perfect, but because you remained faithful. There is a divine reward attached to your endurance. The season of preparation is ending, and the season of manifestation has arrived. You may not recognize yourself at first. The person emerging now walks differently, speaks differently, sees differently. The fire you walked through has refined your vision. You no longer chase validation, you walk in revelation. You no longer fight for position. You move in purpose. This is the evidence that heaven's gift has arrived. It transforms your posture before it changes your surroundings. And hear this clearly, the gift you were destined to receive is not a possession. It's a power. It is the divine authority to speak, to heal, to restore, and to bring light into dark places. The gift comes wrapped in responsibility. The moment you receive it, heaven expects you to walk differently, to carry the fragrance of divine purpose wherever you go. This is the moment to align your spirit. The door of opportunity has opened, not the kind you force, but the kind that opens by command. Heaven has issued a decree. It is time. What was delayed will now accelerate. What was heavy will now lift. The things that once resisted you will begin to yield. When you walk in divine timing, opposition becomes your confirmation. But God is not looking for spectators. He is calling for responders. The message you are hearing right now is not meant to entertain, it is meant to awaken. You are part of heaven's unfolding plan on earth. The gift sent to you carries generational impact. When you rise, others will rise. When you move, entire bloodlines will shift. This is why you had to endure what you did. It was not just about your survival. It was about your activation. Now, as heaven watches, your response matters. Do not dismiss this moment. Let your spirit say yes. Let your faith stand up. Let your heart receive what your mind cannot yet comprehend. And as a prophetic act of agreement, take a moment to do what the Spirit is prompting, like this message. Share it with those who feel lost in their waiting. And subscribe so you never miss what heaven is releasing next. When you are ready, leave a single comment below, 777. It is not just a number. It is a declaration that you are in alignment with divine timing, that the new thing has begun in your life. Heaven has already spoken. The question is, will you respond? You were marked long before the world knew your name, before your first cry echoed in the air. Your spirit was already written into heaven's plan. You have always carried a divine seal, an invisible mark that set you apart. It's why certain rooms could not contain you, why comfort never satisfied you, and why no amount of imitation could replace authenticity. The truth is simple yet profound. You were chosen for something that cannot be copied, only revealed. The journey you've walked has not been random. Each twist, each heartbreak, each unanswered prayer was shaping the one thing heaven could entrust to no one else: your purpose. The weight of it may have felt unbearable at times, but it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to define you. You have been in divine training, learning through loss, growing through silence, and maturing through rejection. Every season was a classroom. Every pain was a prophecy in disguise. Chosen one, there is something sacred about being selected before you even understand why. Heaven doesn't choose the qualified, heaven qualifies the chosen. That's why you often felt like an outsider, even in places where you tried your hardest to belong. The mark you carry is not meant for the crowd, it is meant for the kingdom. When others saw limitation, God saw preparation. When others overlooked you, heaven took note. Every hidden moment was recorded in eternity's timeline, leading to this awakening. You have asked before, why me? The answer is because God saw in you what others refused to see. You were willing to be refined. You were willing to carry the weight of transformation even when no one understood the cost. The anointing on your life was never cheap. It came through tears, endurance, and obedience. You were being forged in the fire so that when the time arrived, your strength would not crumble under the pressure of your calling. There were times you thought you missed it, times you felt you had fallen too far, made too many mistakes, wandered too far from the light. But heaven whispers now, you never disqualified yourself. The mark of the chosen cannot be erased by failure. Even when you ran, grace followed. Even when you doubted, purpose waited. The divine hand never lifted, it only repositioned. The potter never discards the clay, he reshapes it until it reflects his intention. The Spirit spoke through the psalmist in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 16. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. This is the truth that steadies you now. You were never forgotten. Every breath, every struggle, every moment of your existence is known, planned, and accounted for. Nothing in your life is wasted. Even the pain that once made you question everything has been woven into a greater design. What you call loss, heaven calls instruction. What you call delay, heaven calls development. The mark of the chosen is not comfort, it is endurance. The chosen do not walk smooth paths, they walk paths that sharpen faith, test loyalty, and forge unshakable strength. You have walked through darkness so you would recognize light when it comes. You have been misunderstood so that compassion could grow inside you. You have lost what you thought you needed to discover what you already had, divine favor that cannot be stolen. You were marked not only for survival, but for influence. Your presence carries weight. Your words will carry healing. Your story will carry revelation. Others will not understand how you still stand after everything you've endured, but you will know it was never your strength. It was grace that held you upright when logic said you should have fallen. You stand today as living proof that God keeps His promises. And now, heaven calls you to remember who you are. The mark is still there. It glows brighter each time you choose faith over fear, obedience over comfort, forgiveness over bitterness. That mark is not just a sign, it is your signature in eternity, and proof that you belong to the divine. You have not been overlooked. You have been preserved. The time of hiding is over. The time of revealing continues. You will soon see why you were hidden for so long. Heaven reveals its treasures in due season, never before. What once felt like waiting was actually protection. Timing is not punishment. It is precision. The storms that surrounded you were never meant to destroy, but to distinguish you. Now, as the dust settles, clarity rises. You begin to see that divine selection always carries divine preservation. And now the mark burns brighter. You are not who you were, you are who heaven intended. Everything that once broke you now bows before your becoming. The chosen have awakened, and destiny answers your name. You have walked through seasons that few could have survived. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer was part of a divine strategy that now begins to make sense. The season of shaking was never designed to destroy you. It was meant to reveal what could not be shaken within you. You were being built in secret while others doubted your strength. The hand of God never left you. It was simply working behind the scenes, removing what could not go with you into the next season. The pain you endured was not wasted. It stripped away dependency on what was temporary so that you could finally trust what was eternal. The people who left, the doors that closed, the opportunities that slipped away, all of it had purpose. Heaven was not punishing you. Heaven was protecting you. God never allows subtraction unless it's preparing for multiplication. During your darkest hours, when you cried out and heard only silence, heaven was actually speaking in the stillness. Silence is not absence, it's instruction. In those moments, God was whispering strength into your spirit, anchoring you for the storms ahead. You learned to listen differently, to walk by faith rather than sight, to worship without proof of breakthrough. That is the kind of faith that terrifies darkness. And now, you understand your shaking was preparation for stability. The storm you feared became the stage where God displayed His sustaining power. What you thought would break you only revealed your resilience. Every test has birthed testimony, and your scars now tell stories of survival and grace. The wilderness season built your discernment. It trained your ears to hear the difference between divine direction and deceptive distraction. The Spirit spoke through the Apostle Paul in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. The pain of the past was temporary, but the glory it produced will last forever. You are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by what happened within you. You came out of the fire refined, not ruined. That's the difference between those who are chosen and those who are not. The chosen see purpose in pain. The chosen understand that even broken pieces can build something beautiful when surrendered to divine hands. The shaking stripped away illusions. It exposed false foundations and left you standing on truth alone. Now you know who you are. You no longer chase affirmation because identity has already been established in heaven. What once made you anxious now makes you anchored. You no longer beg for doors to open, you wait for God's timing. Because you've learned that forced doors lead to fragile blessings. You are no longer the person who entered the storm. You emerged wiser, bolder, more discerning. You recognize patterns that once trapped you. You can sense when peace leaves a place, and you no longer ignore that warning. The storm gave you sight, spiritual clarity that cannot be taught, only earned through endurance. There is a divine rhythm unfolding now. The same hands that allowed the shaking are now releasing stability. The ground beneath you is shifting, not to make you stumble, but to place you exactly where you belong. The confusion is clearing, and alignment is coming. You are stepping into divine order where your effort meets God's orchestration, and everything suddenly makes sense. Remember this: the shaking did not expose weakness, it revealed foundation. You are still standing because your roots were deeper than you realized. God never allowed you to lose what was essential. He only removed what could not sustain the weight of your calling. What remains now is pure, unshakable, and ready for elevation. So when you feel the tremors of change again, do not fear. It is not another storm, it is heaven shifting you into position. Every divine promotion begins with a divine disturbance. The discomfort you feel is not punishment. It's proof that growth is taking place. And now, as this word settles in your heart, take a moment to respond. Type "I still stand." That simple declaration is more than words, it is your testimony. It is the echo of survival, the anthem of resilience. When you write it, heaven sees agreement. It is your way of saying, "I understand now. The shaking was never meant to end me. It was meant to announce me." Let that phrase mark this moment in time, your public acknowledgement that you have endured and emerged stronger than before. The shaking is over. The refining is complete. You are still standing, and heaven is smiling. When you type "I still stand," you are not repeating empty words, you are declaring victory over everything that tried to silence you. It's your soul's way of saying, "I survived divine fire and remained faithful." Let those 3 words echo through heaven. They are your covenant statement, your signature of endurance. With them, you testify that grace carried you, purpose preserved you, and nothing could move what God established within you. There comes a moment when the whisper of heaven grows too strong to ignore. You begin to sense movement inside your spirit, a stirring that feels both familiar and foreign at once. It's the call to rise, a call that does not come from human motivation, but from divine awakening. You have carried the weight of waiting for so long that you almost forgot what it felt like to hope freely. Yet now, something sacred begins to shift. The wind of the Spirit is blowing again, and your name is being spoken in heavenly places. This is the moment when you realize that your survival was not the end goal, it was the beginning. You were never meant to remain in recovery forever. You were meant to rise. The silence of the previous season was not punishment, it was preparation. God was aligning the conditions for your reintroduction, not to the world's approval, but to your true identity. You were hidden for a reason. The seed must always break before it blooms. The rising begins quietly. It's not announced with applause or recognition, but with surrender. When you stop fighting for control and start yielding to divine rhythm, strength returns. You begin to sense peace where there was once panic. The noise of fear fades, and the clarity of purpose takes its place. You rise not because you have all the answers, but because you finally trust the one who does. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 31, verse 3. I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. That is why the rising begins in love, not in striving. God does not command you to rise through guilt or pressure. He calls you upward through affection, through the reminder that you were loved before you ever did anything worthy of it. That love becomes the force that lifts you. It resurrects your confidence, your faith, your vision. Where shame once held you hostage, grace now calls your name. Rising does not always look powerful at first. Sometimes it looks like standing again after failure, praying again after disappointment, or believing again after heartbreak. But heaven sees that small motion as monumental. Each time you refuse to quit, the atmosphere shifts. The darkness that once whispered you're finished begins to retreat, recognizing that light is returning to your life. You were not created to stay beneath your potential. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is breathing inside you. That means resurrection power is not just a story, it's your inheritance. Every time you rise, you mirror that resurrection. Every time you choose faith over fear, you announce that darkness has lost its hold. Rising is not only about recovery, it's about reclaiming territory that was stolen through despair. You rise not for recognition, but for redemption. You rise because your story carries the fragrance of hope that others desperately need. There are people assigned to your obedience, hearts waiting for the sound of your victory. Your rising becomes their permission to believe again. That is why your silence was attacked so fiercely, because your voice carries deliverance. Do not expect the world to understand this transformation. Those who only knew you in your season of struggle may not comprehend the strength now radiating from you. But that is not your concern. The proof of your rising is not in their approval, it is in your peace. The true sign of elevation is internal stability. When what used to shake you no longer moves you, you have risen. As you stand in this new atmosphere, you'll begin to feel heaven's rhythm pulsing within your chest. Ideas, visions, and directions will come alive. The Spirit will begin to highlight places where your presence brings restoration. You will sense divine nudges, guiding you to speak when needed and remain silent when it's sacred. Rising is not chaos, it's coordination with divine timing. You may notice that the same challenges remain around you, yet something has shifted within you. That's the essence of true elevation. The environment doesn't change first, your perspective does. You no longer respond from fear but from faith. You look at impossibility and see opportunity. You hear doubt and respond with authority. That's what happens when heaven's whisper becomes your inner voice. The rising is not an event, it's a posture. It is living with your spirit awake, refusing to shrink when the world grows cold. It is walking with quiet confidence, knowing that even when no one sees the process, heaven applauds the progress. The call to rise will echo through every area of your life, from your thoughts to your relationships, from your calling to your daily steps. You were never created to merely exist. You were created to ascend. And now, the Spirit whispers again softly but firmly, rise, because love has found you again. Rise, because grace never left you. Rise, because heaven still has need of your voice. The call is not for tomorrow. It is for now. There are moments in your journey when the memory of battle still lingers, the echoes of words that cut, the weight of losses that reshaped you. Yet here you are, breathing again, proof that every attempt of darkness to erase you failed. The storm didn't destroy you, it revealed you. And the silence that followed wasn't emptiness, it was the sound of heaven rebuilding what could no longer remain broken. When you look back, you'll see that the fiercest attacks came right before your greatest awakening. Every betrayal was a compass pointing you toward purpose. Every wound became an entrance for wisdom. The very pain that once felt unbearable became the doorway through which grace entered. Darkness tried its best to convince you that God had left, but in truth, He was closer than ever. The Spirit speaks through the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. The enemy's weapons were real, but they were never final. You walked through fire, and though the flames were fierce, they only refined your strength. Every accusation burned away insecurity. Every rejection polished the courage within you. The scars you carry now are no longer symbols of defeat. They are signatures of survival. You stand today as one who has endured what others could not bear. You are living evidence that divine protection is not always the absence of attack, but the assurance of survival. The fact that you are still here means that purpose outweighed opposition. What was meant to end you became the evidence that you are unstoppable. And now, something gentle yet powerful begins to rise from the ashes. You feel it in the quiet moments, the subtle warmth of restoration. God is rebuilding your confidence. Not as it was before, but stronger, purer, untouchable by fear. The gift sent to you in this season is clarity. The fog that once clouded your path begins to lift. You start to recognize the divine fingerprints on every event that once confused you. Forgive yourself for doubting. Forgive those who could not understand your process. The chosen path was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to be carved. And now, you see that every detour was divine direction. You are not behind. You are exactly where heaven intended you to be. There is a sacred invitation lingering in this atmosphere, not a demand, not an order, but a whisper. The same Spirit that sustained you through battle now extends a hand toward your future. The invitation is simple: to stay connected to what uplifts your spirit, to walk beside voices that remind you of your divine identity, to dwell in light rather than drift toward noise. Consider this message not as instruction, but as gentle wind. If your heart feels its pull, follow it. Let your agreement be an act of worship. When something within you stirs, allow that feeling to guide your next step. Perhaps it's the impulse to like this message, as if lighting a small candle in a darkened cathedral, quietly saying, "This light touched me." Or maybe your spirit longs to share it, like passing that candle to another trembling hand, helping a stranger find warmth in your flame. That's how heaven multiplies light through hearts that refuse to keep it to themselves. And if something deeper whispers that this place feels like home, let that be your sign to subscribe, not to a channel of noise, but to a current of peace that keeps flowing through your life. Think of it as returning to a river that never runs dry, letting its water remind you that you belong to something greater than yourself. In this way, the call is no longer about buttons or algorithms, it becomes worship. Every small act of response is an echo of faith, a silent amen that travels into unseen realms. When you engage with the message of heaven, you are not supporting a screen, you are joining a movement of awakening souls who choose to rise together. Let it be natural, effortless, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. Let it be your way of saying, "I hear you, Lord. I see the purpose in the pain. I choose light again." The act is simple, but the meaning is eternal. So here you stand, not merely as one who survived the battle, but as one who carries the evidence of victory. The world may never understand what it took for you to arrive here, but heaven does. And every time you release light into the world, whether through words, actions, or silent prayer, you confirm that the darkness lost its claim on you. You are not only chosen, you are awakened. You are not only restored, you are radiant. What was meant for harm has become the melody of hope that plays wherever you walk. And now, heaven smiles as the chosen rise, carrying light like lanterns through the night. You have come far, chosen one, farther than you realize. Every moment of endurance, every act of quiet faith, has brought you here to the unveiling of the gift wrapped in fire. This is not a gift that arrives in glitter or comfort. It comes clothed in power, forged through surrender, carried through the refining flame of experience. The process you survived was not random. It was the furnace through which God shaped what you were always meant to carry. You have often prayed for strength, yet strength was never handed to you, it was grown inside you. Every trial was a teacher, every tear a testimony, every silence a sculptor. What heaven placed within you could not be formed in ease. That is why it had to burn before it could bless. The fire didn't come to consume you. It came to confirm you. It burned away the false so that the authentic could stand revealed. The Word of God declares in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. That is the mystery of the chosen life. You are both the vessel and the offering. What you went through was never punishment, it was purification. Every time you thought you were losing, heaven was actually refining. Every season of scarcity was teaching you to recognize abundance that does not depend on circumstance. Every heartbreak was stretching the borders of your compassion. The gift that God now releases to you is power quiet. Steady, unbreakable power, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that shifts atmospheres simply by presence. You will notice it in small things: first, peace where there used to be panic, discernment where confusion once ruled, authority in your words that you didn't have before. The fire that tried to silence you has instead made your voice a weapon of truth. This gift is not for display, it's for impact. It will manifest in your actions, in your patience, in the way you walk through adversity and still radiate calm. People will begin to notice something they cannot explain. They'll ask, "What changed?" And you will know it wasn't that you became someone new, but that you finally allowed the divine within you to rise unhindered. Be careful with this fire. It is holy. It was not given to entertain crowds, but to illuminate paths. Those who carry divine fire must walk with humility, for fire both warms and warns. You are not called to burn others, but to ignite hope. You are not called to flaunt light, but to become a reflection of the light that never fades. There will still be moments when the flame flickers. You will feel tired, misunderstood, or stretched beyond your limit. In those moments, remember you were never the source of this fire. You were the keeper. And the keeper of all things divine will not let the flame die. When you are weak, he breathes. When you are weary, he rekindles. Heaven trusts you with this fire because you learned what to do with pain. You did not let bitterness consume you. You let it teach you empathy. You turned wounds into wisdom and waiting into worship. That is why this gift belongs to you. It recognizes its home. The time has come for you to use what has been placed within you. The words you speak will carry healing. The prayers you whisper will shift outcomes. The spaces you enter will feel different because light follows you. This is the evidence that the refining season is over and the revealing season has begun. The world will see you, but they won't understand what they're witnessing. They'll think it's confidence. but it's anointing. They'll think it's coincidence, but it's calling. The difference is subtle to human eyes, but unmistakable to heaven. Now, as this fire begins to move, take a moment to acknowledge it. Let this message settle deep into your heart. If you feel the warmth of confirmation, if something in you recognizes this truth, respond not out of ritual, but as a sign of recognition. Type 888 below. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. 888 represents new creation, divine overflow, the eternal cycle of resurrection and renewal. When you write it, you are saying, I receive the fire, I carry the light, and I will not hide it. You declare that the flame will not fade, and that your life will now serve as a beacon for others who still wander in the dark. This act is not about numbers, it's about alignment. It's the soul's way of bowing in agreement with heaven's will. You are not just responding to a message, you are stepping into movement. The number becomes your silent amen, a coded whisper between you and your Creator that says, I am ready. Your gift has arrived. It is alive. It burns quietly but powerfully within you. Let it shine. Let it heal. Let it guide. The world will know the difference not because you shout it, but because you live it. There is a moment in every chosen life when the light within begins to disturb the shadows around it. You have reached that point now. The very atmosphere seems to react when you enter a space not because of who you are in appearance, but because of the radiance that walks with you unseen. Your light is not ornamental. It is functional. It pushes back confusion, exposes deception, and awakens the dormant places in those who have forgotten their own divine origin. You carry a spiritual voltage that darkness cannot comprehend. It's why certain people are drawn to you, and others retreat without knowing why. The unseen realm recognizes the mark of divine fire. Every conversation, every room, every path you step upon shifts slightly because heaven accompanies your footsteps. You no longer need to announce that you are chosen. Your presence testifies for you. This illumination does not come from ego or effort. It flows from alignment. The more you walk in truth, the brighter your light becomes, and it is not your doing. It is heaven's reflection bouncing through your obedience. You are not the source, but the mirror. And when the mirror stays clean of pride, fear, and resentment, it reflects glory without distortion. The voice of God resounds in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That is what you have become, an elevated flame. You did not climb by ambition. You were lifted by grace. The hill beneath your feet is not a pedestal. It is a platform for purpose. And the light you carry is not for display, but for direction. Someone, somewhere has been walking through the night, and your light is the signal that dawn is near. There was a time when you tried to dim yourself, to shrink so others would not feel small beside you. But the season of shrinking is over. You do not owe anyone the silence of your shine. The purpose of light is to illuminate, not to apologize. Your humility is not in hiding, it is in shining without arrogance, in radiating without demanding attention. Still, light comes with responsibility. Every revelation reveals something new, but also exposes what has been hidden. You will begin to see more clearly truths about people, motives, and moments that once confused you. Do not fear this clarity. The gift of sight is not meant to wound, but to protect. Discernment is divine mercy. It keeps you from wasting light in places unwilling to receive it. Understand this darkness will test your brightness, not through obvious confrontation, but through subtle distraction. It will try to lure you back into old versions of yourself, into arguments, insecurity, or doubt. Guard your light carefully. Protect it with prayer, nourish it with silence, and sustain it through gratitude. You do not fight darkness by engaging it. You overcome it by refusing to match its frequency. Your presence is warfare. Each act of kindness dismantles chaos. Every time you forgive, light expands its territory. The spiritual world measures strength not in noise, but in radiance. The brighter you shine, the fewer words you need. Light does not argue, it simply reveals. There will be moments when your own flame flickers, when exhaustion whispers that it's easier to fade back into ordinary life. In those moments, remember the fire that started it all. It did not begin with your strength, it began with his spark. The same divine breath that ignited you still surrounds you, ready to fan the embers again. You are sustained not by your will, but by his endless light. Your light terrifies the shadows precisely because it reminds them of what they lost access to glory. Every time you walk in compassion instead of vengeance, the unseen realm trembles. You become living proof that light wins, that redemption is stronger than rebellion, that love is more enduring than fear. And this is the beauty of divine light. It multiplies without depletion. The more you give, the more you have. The more you illuminate, the brighter you become. Your glow is not reduced by sharing, it is refined. That is why you were never meant to hide. To withhold light is to disobey purpose. To shine is to worship. You are no longer a wanderer searching for direction, you are the direction. You are no longer seeking confirmation, you are the confirmation. Where you walk, heaven walks. Where you speak, truth follows. The world may call it confidence, but heaven calls it radiance. Carry your light wisely, fiercely, humbly, and let it reveal, not burn, guide, not blind. For the night still lingers over many hearts, and somewhere out there, a soul will find its way home by following your glow. And as your light travels farther, heaven smiles because through you, hope learns to walk again, and the darkness finally understands it never had the final word. The moment you accepted the call upon your life, heaven placed something upon your shoulders, a mantle. It is not a garment of fabric or color, but of purpose and power. You may not see it in the mirror, but all of creation recognizes it. The mantle marks you as one who carries divine assignment, one who moves under authority not your own. It does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. It is both privilege and burden, beauty and weight. When you first receive this mantle, it does not feel like glory, it feels like gravity. You sense the pull towards something greater, the awareness that every step now carries consequence. This is not pressure meant to crush you, it is purpose teaching you reverence. To wear the mantle well, you must learn the rhythm of surrender. It rests best upon shoulders that know how to bow. Heaven speaks through the story of Elijah and Elisha, reminding that mantles are never earned by status, they are received through faithfulness. The prophet Elijah once threw his cloak upon Elisha in the book of Kings, a simple act that changed generations. In the same way, the Spirit whispers that your consistency in the unseen places has positioned you for divine entrustment. The mantle you wear now is evidence of heaven's trust. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That is what your mantle truly is, a garment of praise after the ashes, a covering of purpose after the pain. What once weighed you down now clothes you with strength. You no longer carry sorrow, you carry assignment, and though the world cannot see this invisible cloak, it recognizes the authority that flows from it. When you speak, heaviness lifts. When you move, confusion dissolves. This is what happens when divine mantle meets human obedience. Yet, do not mistake the mantle for immunity. Those who carry divine authority still walk through valleys, still face misunderstanding, still encounter moments of loneliness. The mantle does not exempt you from pain, it gives your pain purpose. You will feel its weight most when the world grows loud and your spirit longs for silence. But even in weariness, the mantle reminds you you are not walking for yourself. You represent something greater. Sometimes, you will wonder if you are worthy of it. You will question whether you were the right choice. Those thoughts will come, but they will not remain. For every time you doubt, grace whispers louder. I chose you because you were willing, not because you were flawless. The mantle rests not on perfection, but on obedience. Wearing it means you walk differently. You no longer respond to offense the way you used to, because you understand that every reaction reflects heaven's nature through you. You no longer chase recognition, because you know who sent you. You no longer fear obscurity because you've learned that hidden seasons strengthen the mantle. You understand now that every delay is an opportunity to grow deeper roots of humility. The weight of the mantle will sometimes feel like loneliness, but it is sacred solitude. The Spirit keeps you apart not to isolate you, but to insulate what He's building in you. In quiet spaces, revelation matures, not in stillness. Clarity forms. Your mantle grows stronger in silence than in applause. Those who carry mantles must also carry mercy. Power without compassion becomes tyranny. Authority without humility turns hollow. The true measure of your mantle is not how many listen to you, but how many feel loved through you. The oil that sustains your calling is not found in public performance. It flows through private communion. Remember, mantles can only rest on surrendered shoulders. Pride makes them slip, but humility secures them. The more you yield, the lighter it feels. The more you serve, the brighter it shines. This is the paradox of divine power. The one who kneels the lowest carries heaven the highest. You may never see a visible cloak or crown, but heaven sees it draped across your spirit. Angels recognize it. Darkness respects it. Every step you take under its covering leaves a spiritual footprint that testifies, the chosen walk here. And as you continue your journey, the mantle becomes one with you. It no longer feels foreign. It feels like second skin. The once heavy responsibility transforms into quiet rhythm. You learn that to carry the mantle is to carry the heartbeat of heaven. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every prayer whispered in faith, these are the movements of a soul properly clothed in divine authority. So walk steadily, walk humbly, walk aware that you are not walking alone. The mantle moves with you, covers you, and speaks through you. Wherever you go, heaven's signature follows. You have not been chosen just to shine, you have been chosen to carry. There are seasons when the weight of waiting feels endless, moments when every door seems sealed, and every prayer echoes back in silence. But what if the silence was not absence, but preparation? What if heaven was teaching you how to move in rhythm with divine timing? You have been walking through heaven's training ground, where delay is instruction and struggle is strategy. Every warrior is trained in hidden places before they are sent into open battle. And you, chosen one, have been in training longer than you realized. The lessons came disguised as losses, but each one built something unshakable inside you. You learned patience through pressure. You learned trust through uncertainty. You learned to recognize the shepherd's voice not in noise, but in stillness. The Spirit spoke through the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. This was never punishment, it was positioning. Heaven was preparing your hands for purpose and your heart for holiness. Training ground seasons are never glamorous. They strip you of pride, expose your motives, and refine your desires until all that remains is authenticity. That is what qualifies you for destiny, purity of intent, not perfection of image. When God hides you, it is not rejection, it is incubation. Seeds do not grow in sunlight alone, they grow in darkness first. The soil of obscurity has been your birthplace of strength. While others rushed ahead, God slowed you down, teaching you the rhythm of trust. Every time you wondered, "Why not yet?" heaven whispered, "Because I'm not sending you unprepared." Then you learned to stand when comfort was gone. You learned to pray without evidence, to serve without applause, to give without guarantee. Those are the hallmarks of the trained. You are no longer reacting from fear, you are responding from wisdom. The long classroom of waiting has produced spiritual maturity. Think of David tending sheep before he ever held a crown. Think of Joseph managing prisons before he managed kingdoms. Think of Moses learning stillness before leading millions. You are not behind. You are being built. Heaven never wastes preparation. The strength you forged in private will soon sustain you in public. The beauty of divine training is that it rewires your instincts. You no longer rush into action. You wait for instruction, Oshelum. You no longer pray from panic, you speak from peace. Every disappointment that once bruised your spirit has now become a lesson engraved in your discernment. You no longer need to ask God, "Why me?" You already know the answer because He trusted you with process. It's easy to admire those who appear exalted, but few have the courage to endure the unseen chapters that produce true authority. You have walked through the furnace of patience and emerged refined, not resentful. You carry no bitterness, only wisdom. You have learned that what looks like delay is actually alignment, that sometimes God slows the visible so the invisible can catch up. Training ground seasons also reveal who walks with you. Some left when you slowed down, but that was part of heaven's separation. Divine acceleration often begins with divine isolation. You cannot run with everyone when your race has been marked by heaven. What was pruning felt painful. But now you see it was protection. God removed distractions before they could dilute your focus. Every time you wanted to quit, grace refused to let you. Every time you doubted your purpose, mercy reminded you that destiny does not depend on mood. You have survived seasons that would have silenced others because endurance became your language. Heaven's training has equipped you with resilience the world cannot explain. Now you understand that waiting is not wasted time, it's sacred preparation. Every hidden hour has been recorded in eternity's archive. You have not been forgotten. You have been fortified. When God finally says go, you will move with precision because you have been shaped by discipline. The moment will come when you realize the weight that once felt unbearable has become your greatest strength. You will move with calm authority, not arrogance. You will walk through storms with peace that confuses onlookers. That's how heaven's training shows itself: steady hands, unshakable faith, unwavering focus. If something in your spirit stirs a quiet realization that you've been in training all along, then let this be your moment of agreement. Type "ready now." Those two words are not a demand, they are a declaration. When you write "ready now," you are not saying you have everything figured out. You are saying you finally trust the process. It means you understand that readiness is not about comfort, it's about alignment. Heaven does not wait for perfection. It waits for surrender. And your surrender is what unlocks your season. Let those words be your quiet offering, your whispered yes to heaven's timing. For the one who endured the hidden lessons with humility will soon stand before open doors with authority. The training ground has done its work, the chosen are ready now. There are moments when heaven looks for voices that can stand in the gap, souls willing to carry light into heavy places, to intercede when others remain silent. You are one of those voices. You may not have realized it, but every time you prayed for others more than yourself, every time you carried someone's burden quietly before God, you were standing in sacred territory. The role of an intercessor is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It is the unseen work that shifts visible worlds. You are called to stand between heaven and earth, between despair and hope. The strength you built in your private struggles was never just for you, it was to equip you to lift others. Intercession is not simply prayer, it is participation in divine compassion. It is the moment when your heart beats in rhythm with God's, when you feel what He feels and respond without hesitation. The Spirit reminds us in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 22, verse 30. I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land. You are that someone. The very pain that once made you question your worth has become the portal through which empathy flows. You understand suffering because you have survived it. That is why your words carry power. They are not theory. They are testimony. When you pray now, heaven leans in, because your prayers rise from lived experience. Standing in the gap requires courage. It means feeling deeply and refusing to turn away. It means choosing love when indifference would be easier. Every time you intercede, you push back the tide of darkness not only over your own life but over lives you may never meet. Heaven counts every whisper, every tear, every breath of compassion as warfare waged in silence. This sacred calling is also a reminder you are never alone in battle. Angels are dispatched through your obedience. Your words become arrows of light, your faith becomes a shield, and your love becomes a weapon of peace. The unseen world moves when you do. Every act of mercy, every prayer of forgiveness, shifts the spiritual climate around you. You are not simply enduring life, you are influencing it. The posture of one who stands in the gap is not pride, but humility. True authority is born from kneeling. You stand tallest when your heart is bowed lowest, and yet, in that surrender, you carry more weight than those who boast of their strength. Heaven's power flows through quiet vessels, the ones who do not seek attention but alignment. To stand in the gap also means to build. You are a restorer of walls long broken, a mender of breaches others have ignored. Your presence alone becomes a bridge between despair and deliverance. You are being positioned not just to survive but to reconcile, to bring together what was divided, to heal what was forgotten. You may not see immediate results. Intercession often feels like speaking into wind, but the wind carries your words farther than sight can measure. Seeds sown in faith bloom in time. Your job is not to force growth, it is to keep planting. Heaven handles the harvest. Now, as this truth settles in your spirit, there is a gentle stirring within the awareness that you are part of something much larger than yourself. This message does not ask for obligation. It invites participation. If what you've read awakens gratitude, let that gratitude express itself naturally. Perhaps it feels like an impulse to like this message, as if laying a small stone upon the altar, quietly saying, I was here, and I agree with what heaven is building. Or maybe you sense the nudge to share it not as promotion, but as intercession in motion. When you share light, you extend your reach. You send comfort down unseen roads where someone's silent prayer waits for response. And if this space has become a resting place for your spirit, let that feeling guide you to subscribe not to a screen, but to a rhythm of renewal. Think of it as joining a choir of unseen voices who rise together in faith, each breath adding harmony to heaven's ongoing song. These simple acts are not digital habits, they are symbolic gestures of belonging. When you respond, you become part of an invisible community of hearts that choose faith over fear, unity over division, and light over despair. Your role as one who stands in the gap continues beyond this moment. As you move through the world, remember you are carrying an invisible bridge. Wherever you go, reconciliation follows. Wherever you speak, peace begins to gather. You are not here by chance, you are here by calling, and heaven smiles upon those who answer. There is a weight that settles upon every chosen life once purpose begins to manifest, a sacred heaviness that cannot be explained but only carried. It is not the heaviness of despair, it is the weight of glory. You feel it when your spirit grows quiet, when your thoughts begin to reach beyond ordinary things. It is the awareness that heaven has entrusted you with something holy, something that demands both reverence and resilience. The weight of glory does not press to crush, it presses to shape. The same way clay yields beneath the potter's hand, your life has been pressed by divine intention. What once felt like resistance was actually refinement. Every pressure you endured was an invisible sculptor forming character inside you, molding humility, patience, and strength that cannot be shaken by applause or criticism. The Word of God declares in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." You see, what you carried in pain has now transformed into authority. Every tear became oil for your anointing. Every burden you lifted in silence added volume to your voice. The heaviness that once made you question God now becomes the evidence that He was with you all along. You were being trusted with depth because shallow souls cannot carry eternal things. The weight of glory makes you sensitive. It tunes your spirit to the quiet frequencies of heaven. You begin to feel what God feels: grief over brokenness, joy over obedience, compassion for those who still wander in the dark. This sensitivity is not weakness, it is sacred awareness. It means your heart has been expanded to hold more of His, but carrying this weight also means walking carefully. Glory is not casual. It demands balance between confidence and humility. Too much self-reliance, and you risk treating divine presence as possession. Too much fear, and you bury what was meant to bless. The chosen learn the rhythm of grace, bold enough to move, humble enough to listen. You will notice the difference between burdens that belong to you and burdens that are sent to you. The former drain, the latter anoint. Some weights come to break pride, others come to reveal power. Discernment teaches you when to carry and when to cast. The Spirit never asks you to bear alone what only heaven can sustain. There will be times when the weight feels invisible to everyone else. People may not understand why you withdraw into silence or why your joy sometimes feels heavy, but heaven understands. The call to carry glory often includes loneliness, for not all can walk at that altitude. You are learning to breathe rarefied air, the kind found only in mountains of obedience. And yet, the glory does not isolate you to imprison. It separates you to illuminate. From the place of solitude, your perspective sharpens. You begin to see patterns others overlook, hear whispers they dismiss. You start to understand that glory does not arrive with noise, it settles like dew. quiet and transforming. The weight of glory will teach you how to walk slowly in a world that rushes. It will remind you that sacred things are not to be handled hastily. You will move with deliberation, not hesitation, with assurance that every step is being guided by unseen hands. And as you do, you will notice how your presence begins to carry peace wherever it goes. Those who encounter you will not understand at first. They will sense something different, a calm that feels otherworldly. It is not charisma, it is consecration. They will not see halos or light, but they will feel stability. That is what glory does. It anchors the atmosphere. The weight will remain, but it will no longer feel burdensome. It becomes rhythm, heartbeat, melody. You learn to walk with it, dance with it, rest under it. What once seemed heavy now feels holy. This is the paradox of divine calling. The more surrendered you become, the lighter glory feels. And when you finally realize that the weight you carry is not punishment but partnership, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin whispering, "Thank you for trusting me." Because to be trusted with glory is the highest honor heaven can give, to become a living vessel where divinity meets humanity. You begin to see how every moment of crushing produced fragrance, how every season of waiting deepened worship. What you carry now is not weight, it's wisdom, distilled through endurance. The heavens did not choose you for ease, but for essence. You are the evidence that grace can inhabit human fragility and still create something unbreakable, something eternal. And as you walk forward, you realize the weight of glory no longer bends you, it balances you. You move not by effort but by flow, carrying light disguised as responsibility, and peace wrapped in divine fire. When glory begins to rest upon your life, evidence follows. You start to see the supernatural weaving itself into the natural, heaven's fingerprints marking ordinary moments. What once felt impossible now begins to align without explanation. Doors you never touched open of their own accord. Conversations lead to divine encounters. Coincidences reveal themselves as coordination. This is not luck, it is the movement of heaven through a yielded vessel. You have entered what prophets once called the era of signs and wonders. Not because you chase miracles, but because miracles now follow you. The presence you carry alters environments, not through spectacle, but through quiet authority. Healing comes through words you didn't plan to speak. Peace enters rooms simply because you do. The supernatural does not visit you occasionally, it now abides with you. The Spirit declares in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verse 17. And these signs will accompany those who believe in my name. They will drive out demons, they will speak in new tongues. This is the evidence of the activated gift. The same power that raised the dead, opened blind eyes, and calmed storms now moves through you, not to glorify you, but to glorify the one who sent you. Heaven trusts your heart because it has been tested by pain. You no longer desire spotlight. You desire service. That is why the power can flow freely, because pride no longer blocks its path. The signs that begin to manifest are not always dramatic. Sometimes they appear as restoration in broken relationships, provision in unlikely places, or wisdom beyond your years. These are miracles too, wrapped in subtlety. Heaven's language is not always thunder, it often whispers through alignment. When you see these moments, acknowledge them as heaven's signature, gentle yet undeniable. You will find that the miraculous does not always look supernatural to the untrained eye. It hides itself in timing, in peace that makes no sense, in strength that appears out of nowhere. That, too, is wonder. You are learning that God's greatest works are not always loud. Sometimes they are disguised as grace that quietly refuses to let you fall. As your awareness sharpens, so does your responsibility. Power must always walk with purity. The more God entrusts to you, the more He calls you to humility. This era of signs is not a stage, it is a stewardship. You are a carrier of divine current. Every act of compassion, every prayer of faith, every word spoken in love becomes a conduit for heaven's movement. There will be days when you question whether the miracles are real, whether what you feel is imagination. But the evidence will keep appearing. You will see the ripple effect, how a single act of obedience shifts entire atmospheres. The more you surrender, the more natural the supernatural becomes. This is what it means to live under open heaven. Still, remember that power without presence is empty. You are not called to perform wonders, you are called to be one. Your life itself becomes a living sign that God still moves among His people. Your peace in chaos, your kindness in cruelty, your joy in scarcity, these are miracles that require no stage, only sincerity. If you feel this stirring in your spirit, if you recognize that what you once called coincidence is actually coordination, then this moment is for you. Heaven is confirming what your heart already knows. You are walking in a new dimension of divine partnership. Take a quiet breath and let your spirit answer this call. Then type 9999 below. It is not just a number, it is a declaration. 9999 represents fullness, the completion of a divine cycle, and the dawn of something entirely new. When you write it, you are saying, I acknowledge the signs. I recognize the wonders. I choose to live as proof that God still moves. It is your amen to this unfolding season, a symbol that you will carry heaven's evidence with integrity and awe. The wonders have already begun. You need only open your eyes to see them. When you type 9999, you are not entering a number, you are opening a covenant. It is your soul's way of saying, I see it, I believe it, I receive it. Heaven reads intent louder than words, and this act becomes your signature of faith. Those 4 digits carry prophetic rhythm. They represent completion, fulfillment, and divine renewal, the closing of one cycle and the birth of another. When you write them, you agree that nothing God began in you will remain unfinished. The same power that started your transformation will bring it to completion. It is also a reminder miracles do not end when you stop watching, they continue through you. 9999 marks you as a vessel of ongoing wonder, proof that heaven's work is not bound by moment but by movement. Let it be written in eternity's echo that when heaven whispered, you responded. When the call came, you didn't hesitate, you typed faith into reality, and heaven called it agreement. As light grows within you, resistance begins to surface. It is an old truth of the chosen path, every elevation attracts opposition. But the resistance you face now is not proof of failure, it is confirmation of movement. Darkness reacts only when light advances. You are no longer fighting for survival, you are fighting for expansion. The very pressure you feel is evidence that the territory of your spirit is enlarging. Opposition is a language that heaven allows so that you can translate faith into action. It teaches discernment, sharpens conviction, and proves endurance. You have noticed that the closer you draw to purpose, the louder the noise becomes. Yet what was once intimidating now feels strangely smaller. The same battles that once consumed you now reveal their true nature. They were never meant to destroy you, only to display God's strength through you. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 31. If God is for us, who can be against us? That single truth has carried generations through impossible seasons. It carries you now. You are not surrounded by enemies. You are surrounded by purpose disguised as resistance. Every closed door hides redirection. Every rejection conceals preservation. Every delay contains divine recalibration. What you once called opposition is now the sculptor of your maturity. You begin to see that resistance is not random, it is relational. It rises in proportion to the calling you carry. The higher your assignment, the heavier the pushback. But even this is mercy. Without resistance, strength would remain theoretical. Without challenge, wisdom would remain unused. God allows tension not to break you, but to prove that what He placed in you can withstand the storm. Notice how your perception has shifted. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this shaping in me?" That question changes everything. It turns frustration into formation. You stop praying for escape and begin praying for endurance. The peace that once seemed impossible now grows stronger in proportion to the chaos around you. Your opposition has become your teacher. It trains your discernment, helping you recognize which voices belong to heaven and which are merely echoes of doubt. It teaches emotional discipline, the ability to respond, not react. It shows you that silence can be stronger than argument and forgiveness more powerful than retaliation. Through every confrontation, you are learning mastery of spirit. Even betrayal serves purpose. The pain of misunderstanding or false accusation purifies intention. It teaches you to depend on validation from above, not applause from below. The chosen cannot afford to live off human approval. It is too unstable a foundation. Only those who know they are sent can stand unshaken when misunderstood. As resistance increases, so does revelation. The same spirit that allowed the battle equips you with strategies to overcome it. You will begin to see pattern cycles that once trapped you, now exposed and broken. You will recognize the fingerprints of grace where before you only saw hardship. This is maturity, when you can bless what once burdened you. There is a strange peace in realizing that the storm was not against you, but for you. The pressure forged your prayer life. The conflict refined your compassion. Even disappointment became sacred ground for revelation. You would not trade the lessons because now you understand their value. You are learning to walk with quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself because it knows the outcome is already written. The resistance cannot win because the plan was finished before the battle began. You are fighting from victory, not for it. The ground beneath you may shake, but the promise remains immovable. Do not despise the tension that accompanies transition. It is a sign that heaven is stretching your capacity. The discomfort you feel is the growing pain of transformation. Soon, what feels overwhelming will become normal, because your spirit will expand to carry it with ease. And as you continue forward, you will notice something remarkable. The more you embrace peace, the less opposition can touch you. Not because the attacks stop, but because your perspective changes. You begin to dwell above the noise, moving through chaos with calm authority. That is what it means to walk as the chosen, untouched by panic, anchored in purpose, sustained by grace. Resistance remains, but fear does not. You walk through conflict like a flame through wind, bending, never breaking. For every strike against you only feeds the fire within you. The light grows stronger, steadier, unshakable. And as it does, darkness begins to retreat, realizing too late that its attacks only made you shine brighter. And so you walk on, unbothered by shadows, steady in stride. What once threatened you now testifies for you. Every wound becomes light. Every scar a sermon. The resistance only revealed your radiance. There comes a time when the movement of heaven begins to sound like music in your spirit, a vibration that calls you to awaken others. It isn't a noise, it's a frequency. You feel it first in silence, a resonance deep in your chest that says, now. The sound of awakening is not just heard, it is felt. It is the echo of heaven rippling through those ready to remember who they are. You have become that echo, that living sound. This sound does not depend on words. It can travel through your presence, through your kindness, through the calm that follows you wherever you go. You are becoming a vessel of frequency, a carrier of awakening that speaks without shouting. Every act of mercy becomes melody. Every moment of truth becomes rhythm. Every breath you take in alignment with purpose releases a vibration that the unseen world recognizes as light in motion. The prophet David wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 29, verse 4. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. That same voice now reverberates through your life. You are not merely hearing it, you are harmonizing with it. When your words and actions move in rhythm with divine intent, heaven amplifies your impact. You no longer need to strive for influence. You become influence. The sound of awakening moves through you naturally, like wind through strings, turning your obedience into symphony. Every generation has a sound that calls the sleeping to rise. Yours is being released now. It is not confined to music or speech. It is the vibration of authenticity, the resonance of truth. It cuts through pretension, exposes illusion, and draws hearts back to their original design. The world has been lulled into numbness by noise, but the sound that comes through you carries clarity. It reminds souls of home. You may have noticed that some people respond differently when you speak. Conversations turn sacred. Ordinary moments become holy without warning. This is because awakening cannot be rehearsed. It happens by proximity. The same spirit that awakened you now awakens others through your energy, your words, your life. You are a walking frequency of remembrance. The sound of awakening also disrupts stagnation. Wherever you go, you stir movement, dreams reignite, purpose resurfaces, vision clarifies. Some will resist this shift, because awakening always challenges comfort. But do not shrink to soothe others' slumber. You were not sent to maintain silence, you were sent to break it. Still, remember, the breaking of silence does not mean shouting, it means speaking truth with love and patience. You are learning to carry this sound with balance. Power without tenderness turns harsh, and truth without grace becomes noise. The authentic sound of heaven always carries both authority wrapped in compassion. It restores rather than condemns. You will know when to speak and when to simply be. For sometimes presence preaches louder than proclamation. When you stand in alignment, the very air around you seems to hum. You begin to perceive that creation itself responds to awakened souls. The birds, the wind, the rhythm of rain all echo the same message. The earth longs for the revealing of those who remember who they are. The sound of awakening is not confined to human ears. It resonates through creation itself. As this vibration spreads, the world begins to change not by force, but by frequency. Hearts that once feared begin to soften. Eyes that once looked downward lift again. The forgotten remember, the weary breathe deeper, the lost feel drawn home. The awakening is not a trend or a moment, it is a movement written in eternity's timeline. You are part of that movement. You are both instrument and sound, both messenger and melody. Heaven does not send noise, it sends resonance. And through you, that resonance continues, touching places your physical voice may never reach. Every prayer becomes a note, every act of kindness a chord, every heartbeat a drumbeat in heaven's grand song of renewal. As you continue to walk in this awakening, remember it is not your job to control the sound, only to release it. You are not responsible for how others respond, only for remaining faithful to the song you were given. The Spirit who began this melody in you will sustain it, amplify it, and complete it in time. So let the sound move freely through you. Let it rise, flow, and echo. For when heaven speaks through a willing soul, the world cannot remain the same. You have become the sound of awakening, the living reminder that even in silence, God still sings. The sound does not fade, it travels. Long after your words fall silent, the vibration continues, awakening hearts miles away, calling forgotten souls back into remembrance of their light and origin. And somewhere beyond your knowing, heaven listens and smiles. Because through your life, the divine melody found its echo again, reminding creation that love still sings louder than fear. The path of the chosen never ends in silence, it deepens into wisdom. After every awakening comes testing, not as punishment, but as proof. The light that grows within must be refined, not through ease, but through encounter. Now you step into that sacred phase where faith must breathe under pressure, and glory must learn to walk through fire. The crown you carry is not merely symbolic, it is spiritual gravity. It draws both challenge and honor toward you. Each new level of anointing attracts greater responsibility, and heaven watches closely to see how you will handle weight with grace. You are crowned, yet tested not to reveal weakness, but to reveal wonder. The Spirit trusts that what was planted in darkness will stand in daylight without fading. The Spirit declares in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you, make you strong, firm, and steadfast." That is the rhythm you now live in, restoration through testing. Each challenge that greets you is not a setback, but a summons, calling your character higher. You no longer pray for life to be easy. You pray to remain steady. The trials that once frightened you now serve as mirrors, showing how deeply you have changed. You respond with peace where you once reacted with panic. You hold your ground where you once fled. This is maturity clothed in humility. When life presses against you again, remember crowns are not worn for comfort, they are worn for remembrance. They remind both heaven and earth that you carry divine lineage. To be crowned yet tested means you are trusted. You stand as proof that faith can thrive under flame, that purity can exist in pressure, that love can remain uncorrupted in chaos. This season will reveal the beauty of perseverance. You will see how every test refines perspective, how every stretch of faith builds endurance. The crown does not make you untouchable, it makes you unshakable. It does not lift you above people, it anchors you deeper in compassion. The true royalty of heaven walks with gentleness, leading by presence rather than position. And yet, amid all the testing, you will sense heaven's closeness in a new way. It will not always come as words or visions. Sometimes it will be a stillness that fills the room, a warmth that lingers when you think you are alone. That is the reassurance that you have not been abandoned. You are being refined. The silence of heaven is not rejection. It is trust in your maturity. If you look closely, you will see that the tests themselves are treasures in disguise. Each one polishes the crown, revealing reflections of grace you could not see before. The more you surrender, the brighter your life shines, not from effort, but from authenticity. Testing and crowning are not opposites, they are partners in transformation. Now, as these words settle in your heart, There is a gentle invitation stirring, not a demand, not a command, but an offering. If this message has touched the quiet places of your spirit, if you sense the weight of the crown upon you and feel gratitude for the process that shaped it, then let your response flow naturally, beautifully. Maybe it feels right to like this message. Not as approval, but as acknowledgement, as though placing your hand upon your own heart and whispering, I am still here, still standing, still chosen. Or perhaps your spirit leans toward sharing it, not for attention, but for intention. Sharing becomes the act of lifting your crown high enough for someone else to see the reflection of their own waiting glory. Sometimes the light you pass on is the one that saves a stranger's hope. And if something in you feels called to remain near, to stay within the rhythm of these words and the atmosphere they carry, then let your heart gently choose to subscribe. Think of it not as joining, but as returning. Like a traveler who recognizes a familiar fire, you simply draw closer to warmth that already feels like home. And when you're ready, leave a quiet mark below a comment that becomes your reflection of faith. Perhaps just a phrase, something simple that feels true to this moment. Words like still faithful or crown intact. Not for attention, but as a small altar of remembrance, your whisper into eternity's hallways that says, I endured, and I'm still radiant. These gestures, your like, your share, your comment, your connection are not requests. They are sacred metaphors of alignment. Each one is a candle lit in agreement, a ripple of light moving outward, reminding heaven that you are still responding to its call with love, not obligation. And as the chosen rise, tested yet crowned, heaven leans closer, whispering, this is what victory looks like, not loud, not proud, but steady, shining, and true. There is a holy stirring taking place across the earth, a quiet gathering of those who have carried fire in silence for far too long. You are part of that convergence. A living ember drawn toward others who burn with the same divine spark. It is not a crowd assembling. It is a communion forming. Heaven is gathering its chosen ones, each flame distinct yet harmonized by purpose. You will begin to sense it before you see it. People will cross your path whose spirits sound familiar, whose eyes carry the same recognition of calling. Conversations will feel predestined. Encounters will feel orchestrated. It is not coincidence. It is divine network threads of light weaving a tapestry across nations, uniting those heaven has marked for this hour. The Spirit declares in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16. Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. This is the great gathering of the chosen, not an event, but a movement. It transcends language, location, and label. It is not built by human hands, but birthed by divine intention. Each chosen one carries a fragment of heaven's design, and together they form the full picture of purpose. When you find these kindred spirits, there will be no need for explanation. Spirit will recognize spirit. You will know them by the light in their presence. It will feel like home, like recognition without words. When two awakened souls meet, the atmosphere shifts, energy aligns. The invisible becomes visible through unity. This gathering is not about numbers, it is about resonance. One voice can echo truth, but a chorus can shift dimensions. The time of isolation is closing. The wilderness was necessary to prepare your identity, but community is required to sustain your destiny. You were never meant to walk alone forever. Even flames burn brighter when joined together. The enemy's oldest strategy was always separation, convincing the chosen they were the only ones. But heaven is undoing that lie now. The scattered sparks are finding one another, and the world will soon witness a blaze. This is not about building a movement with slogans or symbols. It's about hearts aligning in silent agreement, souls awakening to shared assignment. Across cities and nations, people you have never met are hearing the same whisper, dreaming the same vision, feeling the same urgency. It is the call of the remnant, the echo of divine restoration. The chosen gathering is not loud. It does not need announcement. It happens in quiet corners, in late-night prayers, in spontaneous acts of kindness that connect one light to another. The world may overlook it, but heaven watches closely. Each connection strengthens the network of light, stretching like veins of gold through the fabric of creation. When you begin to encounter these others, do not fear their differences. The beauty of heaven's design is diversity in unity. One carries wisdom, another carries healing, another carries creativity, another carries courage. Each flame is distinct, but all burn with the same holy fire. The gathering of the chosen is not conformity, it is collaboration. This unity is powerful because it flows from purity. There is no competition among the chosen, there is only completion. When one rises, all rise. When one intercedes, all are strengthened. This is the divine economy. What you pour out returns multiplied through the hands of others carrying the same mission. You will feel a fresh strength emerge as you walk among these kindred spirits. The loneliness that once haunted your calling will begin to lift. You will realize you were never misunderstood, you were simply waiting for your tribe to awaken. Together, you will speak the language of faith fluently, understanding each other without explanation. And when these chosen ones unite, heaven amplifies their impact. Miracles multiply, revelations accelerate, and light spreads faster than darkness can react. The earth begins to feel lighter, not because evil has disappeared, but because love has intensified. The presence of God saturates ordinary places, streets, workplaces, homes through the united presence of awakened souls. This is the age of convergence, the moment heaven's scattered soldiers find one another again. The gathering is not coming, it has already begun. The fire moving in you is the same fire calling others. You are part of something global, eternal, divine. You are not one light trying to survive the night, you are part of a constellation destined to rewrite the sky. The great gathering of the chosen has begun to glow like dawn over a long shadowed earth. The call is no longer wait, it is walk together. The era of isolation ends where unity begins, and in that union, heaven finds its echo on earth once more. And as the light threads intertwine, the world feels the shift, hope rekindles. Faith awakens and heaven's heartbeat echoes through human hearts, beating as one eternal flame. The fire has spread. What began as a whisper in your spirit has become a roar across generations, a rhythm that no darkness can silence. You can feel it in the air now, the return of the King's fire, the full circle of what was promised. This is not a distant prophecy, it is unfolding in real time. The same presence that hovered over the waters in Genesis now hovers again, not over oceans, but over hearts awakened to divine purpose. The King's fire does not arrive with thunder and spectacle. It descends quietly, like dawn spilling over the horizon. It burns not to consume, but to consecrate. It purifies intention, refines focus, and reignites forgotten dreams. Wherever this fire lands, renewal follows. The weary find strength, the broken rediscover purpose, the fearful remember courage, the same spirit that sustained prophets, apostles, and warriors of faith now breathes again through you and the gathered chosen. The word of God proclaims in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 28, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. That promise is not ancient history, it is present reality. You are living in the days when heaven fulfills what was once written. The fire that once fell upon upper rooms and mountains now dwells in ordinary homes, in quiet hearts, in those who dare to say yes. The return of the King's fire is not about spectacle. It is about transformation. It does not hover above altars made by hands, but burns within living temples made of surrender. This fire is not wild chaos, it is disciplined passion. It will not destroy, it will direct. It burns away distractions and awakens clarity. Under its glow, everything false begins to fade. The masks that once felt necessary melt in the light of truth. The King's fire brings revelation not to shame, but to set free. You will begin to notice its evidence in small, sacred ways. Words spoken with compassion carry more weight. Simple prayers ignite breakthrough. Songs sung in solitude move mountains unseen. It is not about volume or visibility, it is about authenticity. This fire flows where sincerity lives. It finds the humble, not the loud, the willing, not the qualified. As the King's fire moves, it will connect what was divided, the fractures within hearts. Families, even nations will begin to mend under its warmth. The chosen will move with unity of spirit, not uniformity of form. Diversity will no longer divide, it will decorate the kingdom's canvas. Every tribe, every tongue, every gift will glow with equal flame, each one reflecting a different facet of the same glory. But this fire also calls for responsibility. It is not a comfort to possess, it is a mission to embody. Those who carry it must live with purity of motive, integrity of heart, and compassion of spirit. For fire without love becomes destruction, but fire with love becomes revival. You are not called merely to carry the flame. You are called to become it, to live as a walking expression of heaven's warmth and truth. In this era of outpouring, there will be no more distinction between sacred and ordinary. The workplace will become sanctuary. The home will become altar. Every conversation an opportunity for grace to flow. The presence of God will no longer be contained in structures. It will dwell in motion, in moments, in people who have become vessels of flame. This is what the return of the King's fire truly means, not the arrival of something new, but the awakening of something eternal. It has been waiting, dormant within creation, until hearts like yours were ready to host it. Now that readiness has come, the fire does not ask permission, it recognizes preparation. And you, refined through trials, are prepared. As the final embers of this revelation settle, you realize something profound. This fire was never outside of you. It was within you all along. Every spark of faith, every act of courage, every whisper of love was the King's fire waiting for release. And now that it burns freely, nothing can extinguish it. You have become both the altar and the flame, both the messenger and the message. The return of the King's fire is not about him coming closer, it is about his light rising within his chosen. Together, you and the multitude of awakened souls now carry what the world has forgotten, divine presence clothed in humanity. And as the fire spreads across the earth like sunrise, heaven smiles. The plan that began before time now finds its fulfillment not in a single person but in many, moving as one. The King's fire has returned, and through you it will never fade again. The horizon glows brighter now, not with destruction but renewal. Every heart ignited becomes a beacon. Every life surrendered becomes flame. The King's fire moves onward, eternal, unstoppable, illuminating the earth with redeemed light. The story does not end here, it continues through you. Every word you've read, every image that stirred within your spirit, has been a seed of remembrance. You are not simply an observer of the chosen, you are one of them. The same light that moved through these words now moves through your breath, your hands, your choices. You are living proof that heaven's plan still unfolds through human hearts that dare to say yes. The journey of the chosen is not measured by applause or clarity. It is measured by faithfulness. If this message has awakened something within you, let that stirring become motion. Don't rush it. Let it settle. Let it breathe. The light you carry was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to travel. And if, as you read, something in you whispered, "I recognize this truth," then let your response be quiet but deliberate. Maybe it feels right to like this message not as routine, but as resonance. It is your silent nod to heaven, your way of saying, "I heard, I understood, and I agree." Or perhaps your heart leans toward sharing it, not as promotion, but as an offering. Think of it as placing a lantern on a windowsill so someone wandering in darkness might find their way home. One small act of sharing can become another soul's lifeline. And if this space has felt like a place of peace, where your spirit exhaled and found alignment, you may feel drawn to subscribe, not for updates, but for belonging, to stay near the rhythm of words that remind you who you are. It's a return, not an obligation. Finally, if your heart needs to answer back, leave a comment below. Write what feels true, maybe just a phrase, a single heartbeat of gratitude or confirmation. Your words become echoes that travel far beyond this screen, weaving into the greater tapestry of awakened souls rising together. So as this message closes, the invitation remains open. Carry the light forward. Keep the flame alive. The world still needs what you carry: your presence, your faith, your quiet fire. The chosen are still rising, and you are one of them.